Hey everyone, it's E. Welcome back to my channel. This week's DCOM review video will be covering some of the worst DCOMs. Like, these ones are pretty darn bad, and I don't recommend you watch these at all. Some are better than others, and some maybe aren't that bad, but, you know, have kind of a bad reputation, but most of them are just straight bad. And I didn't want to be too negative, but that's kind of going to be the tone of this video, so I apologize about that. And for the fan art this week, it's not my best. It's more of a doodle than a true fan art because I didn't like these movies and I didn't really want to make fan art for it. I almost didn't do it at all and just, I don't know what I would have put on. Maybe I would have just vlogged it and had my face. I don't know. But anyway, let's just jump into it. The first movie we'll cover is the one I did the fan art, quote-unquote fan art for this week, and that is Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. And this is probably one of the better DCOMs in this video, but I didn't like it that much because of what they continue to do with Sharpay's characterization. So in High School Musicals 1 through 3, it's kind of a roller coaster of Sharpay learning her lesson about not being so arrogant, and then when we start the next movie, she's right back to being arrogant again. And it seems like that's basically what we're getting in this movie. After High School Musical 3, you'd think she'd be humbled because she didn't get accepted into Juilliard, and she's basically going to community college and helping the theater teacher at her high school. She's not going anywhere, and she seems content with that. But this movie kind of backtracks on that and retcons the ending of High School Musical 3 and says that no, Sharpay is actually taking a gap year, she's not going to college, and she's not helping out the high school theater program, which that frustrates me. So the premise of this movie, it's kind of a basic love story. Sharpay's father has given her 1 month to get her life together before he is going to make her work for him at the country club. She said she needed a year to figure out her life, and it's been a year. So what she's going to do is go to New York City and try to land a role in this play because a casting agent told her he thought she had potential. Well, it comes to find out that he wasn't really talking about her, he was talking about her dog, Boy, and so she's basically in New York trying to get her dog cast in this play, and it's kind of stupid. I don't know. I guess that, like, the reason that they tried to stray away from what they said she was going to do at the end of High School Musical 3 is because they wanted to give her character a more interesting story and to give her I guess a happier ending than what we kind of saw at the end of High School Musical 3. And I guess they also wanted to use and abuse the High School Musical hype as much as possible and pump out one more unneeded movie. There's really not much going on with this story. What I described to you is basically it, but her dog being the one who got the audition is kind of a cute twist. But again, I think it's frustrating that we basically have to watch Sharpay learn about not being selfish again, and it's like if the lesson didn't stick the first 3 times, I don't have any confidence that this Sharpay in this universe has changed at all. I think it would have been good for her to go back home and work at her dad's country club because it would have been good for her to have to work a real job, and maybe that could have helped humble her a little bit, but we don't get that ending. She succeeds and she actually gets to star in the play herself due to some of the circumstances with the arrogant star of the play that she originally identified with, but then she's like, oh no, she actually is a jerk and I don't want to be like that. But that was kind of an undercurrent happening in the background. It wasn't really ever explicitly said that Sharpay is like, I don't want to be like you. I'm not like you at all. I thought I was, but, you know, there was just no moment where, like, she really seemed like she had an epiphany moment. The songs aren't really that great, and honestly, Ashley Tisdale's performance is really poor in this. I don't think that she really gave it her all. I feel like she was just there to collect a paycheck, and I don't blame her at all. She's played Sharpay Evans in 4 movies. I wouldn't really be giving it that much effort in the 4th one either. The love story is decent. The story I give a 3 out of 5. It's okay. The acting gets a 2 out of 5. The lesson gets a 1 out of 5. Like I said, it was never really a moment that Sharpay seemed to learn anything. The songs get a 1 out of 5, and the enjoyability gets a 2 out of 5. Next up is a movie called Bad Hair Day. This movie's really not that bad either. This is one of the better ones in this list, but this movie just is so random and weird, and it's just not really something that I felt like I could connect to, and I think most people would probably feel the same way. So it's about this girl, it's her prom day, her hair's all messed up, and she just wants to get to her hair appointment. She needs a new dress, but she can't drive, and she can't get to her driver's test, which is also happening the same day because her dad is working at the hospital, so she's trying to find some other way to get there. Her boyfriend flakes out on her, turns out he's cheating on her, and so basically this not FBI agent, she pretends she's an FBI agent, she's an ex-cop, comes to her door and inquires about this necklace, which she had purchased recently at a pawn shop, and the cop had traced the purchase and found this girl. She was going to wear the necklace to her prom that night. So she says that she will tell her where the necklace is if she can give her a ride to all of her appointments and stuff that she needs to get to. And basically, like, shenanigans ensue. This should have been very straightforward, but it's like kind of one of those National Lampoon type of stories where it just keeps going wrong for some reason. The necklace, the part of the reason that the woman wanted to find it is because she's a cop. Part of the reason she was taken off the force is because she let a jewel thief get away with that necklace, and she's trying to restore her honor, I guess, and find it. And like I said, it's kind of a dissatisfying movie because so many things go wrong. And at the end, the way that her hair gets fixed is she basically chops it all off. And it looks terrible. Like, I can't tell if it's a wig or if they've just done something weird with her real hair. It's like really weird and big and fluffy and strange. I think that her makeup, it's played by the girl who does Allie from Austin and Allie, Lauren Morano or something like that. I don't know. She plays a girl named Monica, and her makeup is absolutely whack in this movie. It's like, I understand she's having a bad hair day, but why does her face have to look like that? Like, it's this strange eyeshadow. And the cop, whose name is Liz, she acts totally crazy throughout this movie, and it makes it difficult to watch. The dialogue is not great. At one point, Monica says, "You're crushing him," instead of "you're crushing on him." So it's like the people who wrote this script didn't understand how, like, slang or the English language works at all. Also, I feel like her bad hair day would have probably been solved or at least assisted by, I don't know, just washing it. Also, like, this pawn shop that the high school girl bought the necklace from sold it to her for $13, but it turned out the necklace had, like, a real diamond in it. It was, like, worth $20 million. And the thing is, pawn shops have jewel appraisers. Decent pawn shops do anyway. So they would have been able to tell if it was a genuine stone or just fake costume jewelry. I don't know. There's just so many stupid scenes. Like, the driver's test was stupid, and the diversion towards the end, there's like this part where her makeup palette gets swapped with her friend's makeup palette, and she had hidden the necklace in the makeup palette. And so, like, this was just a diversion to get her to meet up with her friends while they're getting their prom pictures taken, so that there could be this whole orchestrated event so that she could get some comeuppance on her boyfriend who was cheating on her. And also she gets this really big speech at the end because she gets elected prom queen, and it's like, is that what happens at prom? I never went to my prom. Do they give big old speeches like were they the valedictorian or something? Like, I don't really know how that works. Anyway, the story, I give a 2 out of 5. The acting gets a 4 out of 5. I take a point off for Liz, the cop. The lesson gets a 1 out of 5. It's very overdone and not original at all, and I can't even remember what the lesson was at this point. And the enjoyability gets a 3 out of 5. Next, let's talk about Frenemies, which is like 3 terrible movies rolled all into one. So basically, it's one of those movies where it's like there's 3 stories going on and they're supposed to be interconnected, but they're really not interconnected. It's just that some of the stories share characters. So really, it's like watching 3 episodes of an ensemble cast television show that don't have anything to do with each other. And so basically, it's like none of the stories were really good enough to make a movie out of. So I don't know why they made this movie at all. I think it's based on a book, so I feel like the book would probably be pretty bad too. So the first story is pretty cliche and not original at all. So it's a classic girl using a guy and deceiving him because she's pretty, that kind of a story. And like the girl who this is, you know, that's kind of the quote unquote villain of the story is like really over the top mean as well. And like is this, like, the movie Frenemies. It's about, like, friends who become enemies, which is not really even what the definition of frenemies is. But it's this kid who kind of gets mad at his dog, and that's really it. And he makes up with his dog and realizes that the girl is using him. And the thing is, I really hate that he yelled at his dog, and the dog is really cute, and so that was not very fun. The dog is, like, unrealistically smart, and, like, his critical thinking skills are beyond believable. So that's kind of the first story. And there's narration at the beginning and in between each of these movies, and it's like this narration is totally unnecessary and annoying. The second story is also weak and basic. So this one is about Zendaya and Bella Thorne. They're friends, and, like, they run, like, a fashion blog, and they're competing to have the opportunity to write an article for this, like, bougie newspaper or this bougie magazine. And it's like it's just unoriginal. That's really all that I have to say about that story. I mean, there's really nothing to it. It's just unoriginal. The third story is especially stupid. So it's about these two girls who are basically, like, identical strangers, and they switch lives. And then they become kind of mad at each other and then make up at the end. And I hate stories with identical strangers because that just doesn't happen. Like, that's not realistic at all. It's stupid. And why is this girl British? So one of the girls who is, like, one of, like, identical strangers, she's randomly British, but she lives in the same town, and, like, her parents are British. Like, why? It's stupid. Doesn't make sense. The story I give a 1 out of 5, because, like I said, it's 3 stories that couldn't be good enough to be their own movie. The acting gets a 2 out of 5. The lesson is 2 out of 5. The lesson was friends can overcome anything. Whoop-de-doo. And the enjoyability gets a 1 out of 5. Alright, next up is Radio Rebel, which is really not that bad of a movie, honestly, but I included it on this list because people have been making fun of it online a lot recently and nitpicking it, so I'm not going to talk about it too much because if you like DCOMs, you've probably been watching, like, the Radio Rebel meme videos. Basically, this is about a girl who's a radio DJ. Well, she has a podcast and then becomes a radio DJ, and she's anonymous, but in real life she's super shy, like, shy beyond belief, and acts really bizarre. And Debbie Ryan, who plays this girl, her acting is bizarre in this movie. Like, this is one of those movies that maybe you should watch just so you can see how strange she behaves in this movie. It's really funny. So, like, the songs in this movie are really mediocre because she's like she picks songs. She's a radio DJ. And I think that there's some original songs in it too. I can't remember because this was the first DCOM I watched, which was back in May. So it's been several months now since I've seen it. But I remember the songs, like, that she picked to play on her radio show were not that good. I feel like the message was fairly good and a slightly more unique delivery of that message than typical for a DCOM about being yourself. But the message is still cliche, and at one point, the villain of the movie makes a decent point about the kids at school not exactly being rebellious if they all do exactly what Radio Rebel says, which is the main girl's, like, alias. That's what she calls herself, Radio Rebel. And it's true. They basically all follow Radio Rebel and does everything she says, like, as a way of, like, rebelling at school and standing up to authority, whatever. The main conflict of the story makes absolutely no sense. So basically, the principal of the school does not like the fact that kids are, like, questioning authority at school, and she blames Radio Rebel for this. And she says, I know Radio Rebel goes to school here, so as soon as I find out who she is, I'm going to expel her. You can't do that. You can't expel a student for stuff that they did outside of school, and Radio Rebel's radio career happens outside of school. So even if she did find out who she was, like, I think it'd be pretty easy for a parent to make a case like, no, you can't expel my daughter for stuff she did outside of school, and it's not her fault if these kids do these things. Like, she can't be held responsible for everybody else's actions. And also, the stuff the kids were doing at school really wasn't that disruptive. It was just stuff like wearing all the same color and having a dance party before school. The main love interest is at least kind of cute. The one thing about, like, DCOMs that I don't understand, like, the antagonist girl is a popular girl at school, but she is really stuck up and mean. And she is a suck up to teachers. So she, like is a brown noser. And in my experience, brown nosers and suck ups were not popular with other kids. So that doesn't make a ton of sense. So anyway, I give the songs in this movie a 2 out of 5. I gave a song rating for it. So I guess there were enough songs for me to warrant doing that. The story I gave a 2 out of 5. The acting I gave a 3 out of 5. The lesson, I didn't give a rating at the time, but I'll go ahead and give it a 2 out of 5 because while the lesson was cliche, at least the delivery was unique, and the enjoyability I gave a 3 out of 5. Let's talk about Zapped. This is another Zendaya movie. First of all, the title of this movie makes no sense. Nothing gets zapped as far as I can tell. And secondly, the plot makes no sense. So basically, Zendaya's phone, she has this dog training app, which doesn't work, but then she drops the phone in some dog food, and now her phone magically is able to control boys. And that's just stupid. The magic app is way too far-fetched, and it's never explained really how it works. Aside from that, I don't understand what the message of the movie was. So like I said, the phone app was supposed to control dogs, but it actually controls boys. And so like the message of the movie was trying to say that boys aren't dogs, but throughout the movie, boys are compared to dogs the entire time. And the ending only confirms that not only are they like dogs, but they actually are dogs because her brothers or her stepbrothers stand up for her, and she says dogs never go against the pack. And it's like, okay, so they are dogs? I don't get it. It was totally inconsistent and nonsensical. It's like, who wrote this? They don't understand how morals and themes and motifs, they don't understand how any of that stuff works. The best part of the movie is there's like this dance battle, but there's really not much more to say about it. Zendaya is cute and her love interest is cute, but that's really it. Those are the only positive points of this movie, is that Zendaya is good looking and so is her love interest. The story gets a 1 out of 5. The acting gets a 4 out of 5. They did the best with what they had. The lesson gets a 1 out of 5, and the enjoyability gets a 2 out of 5. Alright, next up is Dadnapped, which is probably one of the most original Disney Channel original movies, but unfortunately originality does not equal success. So this is a movie about a girl whose dad is a famous author. Her parents are divorced, so she doesn't see her dad all that much, and they're about to go on a camping trip together. But he stops off at this convention at a hotel where they're basically honoring him with this trivia contest, and he is supposed to determine who's the biggest super fan, basically. And these kids who are his fans fake kidnap him to show him that they're his biggest fans, but then he for real gets kidnapped by this guy who's writing a book and needs his help to make it great, but like they hold him hostage basically to help him write this book. The principal issue with this movie is how cheesy it is, and Jason Earle's character looks like a cartoon villain. I appreciate the twists in this movie, but overall it was so corny that it really didn't matter. And the thing is, like, Disney Channel original movies are supposed to be cheesy, but this was to a whole nother level of cheesiness that I didn't really enjoy. I also will praise the movie's handling of the love interest. Unlike the rest of the movie, that was actually realistic. They don't fall in love at the end. They just agree to go on a date, which is nice. So part of like the weirdness of this movie is that she hallucinates that she's talking to the protagonist of her dad's books. And I guess it's kind of like a sign of her psychosis, which is never addressed. Like, she talks to him out loud. It's very strange. And at the end of the movie, like, I guess she kind of forgives her dad because he tells her that the main character was based on her and that, like, she was the one who inspired him to write. But I don't think that her dad being inspired by his daughter to write books, that doesn't really give him a pass for neglecting her. The story, I give a 4 out of 5 because, like I said, it was really original. The lesson gets a 1 out of 5 because it's another one of those you can do it type of themes. The acting gets a 3 out of 5, and the enjoyability gets a 1 out of 5. I just hated this movie. I don't know why, but I hated it. Okay, Freaky Friday. We must bear in mind that this is the third time that this movie has been made. The plot of this one is the same gist. The daughter and the mom swap bodies. The plot of this one is a little bit more interesting because there's like this scavenger hunt happening, but we really don't get to see any of the scavenger hunt. Like, that's the daughter's exciting, like, subplot. Is it like there's this really cool scavenger hunt that she's doing. And yeah, so I wish we had gotten to see more of the cool scavenger hunt and less of the family drama. The singing, like, the vocalists are good, but I have no idea why this movie needed to be a musical. Like, the songs are stupid. Like, they're good at singing, but the songs are stupid. The daughter seems really lame and selfish, unlike the Lindsay Lohan version where she's still selfish, but she's much, much cooler. Anyway, I don't really feel like there's much to say about this movie since it's been done like a million times. Skip this one, the songs will get on your nerves. It's not original, it's just the same movie over again. And the acting's not good, the songs stink. Yeah. So the story, I give a 2 out of 5. The lesson, I gave a 1 out of 5. The acting, I gave a 4 out of 5. And I think it's because it was I was saying, like, their singing was good, so I gave them bonus points for that. The songs will get a 1 out of 5, because, like, ugh. There's a song that the mom sings in biology class that's, like, just downright embarrassing. Like, she's the mom, but she's singing as the daughter because they've swapped bodies. And, like, it is so embarrassing. The enjoyability, I gave a 3 out of 5. Okay, Twas the Night is a DCOM about Christmas. It has Bryan Cranston in it, which you'd think would make this movie better because Bryan Cranston is a legitimate actor, but no, not so much. Basically, the movie opens with a Twas the Night poem narration, which is cliche and irritating. And also, very early on in the movie, I was like, are any of these characters going to be likable at all? And turns out, no, they weren't. So basically, the gist of the story is that Santa's sleigh gets downed by this computer virus that the kid's uncle Nick released to the world. I don't know how that worked. The way that the computer virus in this movie worked is completely far-fetched, nonsensical, and stupid. He has just the virus sitting on his desktop like a file, and he drags it across the screen, and that somehow infects all of the computers within like a 50-mile radius. How does that work? That's not how computer viruses and hacking works. Anyway, Santa's sleigh gets downed, and he gets knocked out in their living room. So this kid and his Uncle Nick, his name is Danny and his Uncle Nick decide that they're gonna deliver Santa's presents, but really Uncle Nick he's just a con man, and he wants to use Santa's sleigh and his magic powers to rob people's houses. It's stupid. It's just dumb. The movie is weird. The kids' ages seem almost irrelevant. So there's this kid named Danny, and he's got a little brother and a little sister, and like the little sister acts like she's older than Danny, like more mature, and then the younger brother acts like a baby, and he looks like he's probably like 12, but he talks and acts like a baby. It's weird. I mean, the way that computers work in DCOMs is always fishy, but like this is just straight up laughable. There's a lot of this movie that's reliant on technology and how technology works, and it's all bad. So it's basically, while Nick and his uncle are delivering presents, or stealing, I guess I should say, his younger siblings are trying to help Santa get his sleigh back, and they're like using computers to track down the sleigh, and it's just goofy and stupid. Like, and there are a lot of things in this movie, like effects wise, that are bad. So when Santa moves in super speed, everyone else is supposed to look frozen because Santa has this magic little ball that helps him do his deliveries, and he moves in super speed, and everyone else looks like they're frozen. But like, they didn't actually do just like a freeze frame, so they just had like the actors standing as still as possible, and you can very visibly see them wobbling and breathing and moving even though they're supposed to be dead still. It's terrible. Santa's acting is terrible. It's basically the Santa Claus, but not as cute and somehow unexciting. I give the story a 2 out of 5, the acting a 2 out of 5, the lesson a 1 out of 5, and the enjoyability a 2 out of 5. Next up, let's talk about Hounded. This is a movie that has Taj Mowry and Shia LaBeouf in it. And basically, Taj Mowry's character, he wrote this really great speech for school, and Shia LaBeouf's character stole it. And so he's trying to prove that Shia LaBeouf stole it. So he goes over to Shia LaBeouf's house. He lives in this rich, fancy mansion, and his dad is the headmaster of the school. And he tries to find his cue cards for his speech so that he can prove it. But what winds up happening is that their dog follows him back home. And so the whole movie is basically about him trying to return their dog to them without them thinking that he kidnapped the dog. And it's not great. Shia LaBeouf is really great in this movie. Shia LaBeouf makes any movie better, honestly. He's really funny, as always. They use this animal puppet for a lot of the scenes with the dog, and it's really cheesy and bad looking. I really just hate this movie. I feel like it would contribute to children's fear of dogs because the dog that follows him home at one point just goes into this strange like conniption fits like Cujo or something, and it like rips up the house, and it like constantly is biting him and acting totally evil. And I just feel like that's awful. The constant barking is really annoying. Is like, for you the viewer, you have to sit and listen to a dog barking for like an hour and a half. That's awful. The ending is well thought out and really satisfying. And all things considered, the movie is pretty well paced, but the whole dog thing is terrible. The story I give a 3 out of 5. The acting gets a 4 out of 5. The lesson gets a 2 out of 5. The lesson is stand up for yourself, which I think is a good message, but it wasn't very thorough. And the enjoyability gets a 2 out of 5. The whole time I was thinking, how can they make a feature-length film out of this? But indeed, they did. That's Hounded. Okie doke, I think I've saved the worst for last. The movie I'm going to be discussing today is You Lucky Dog. I don't know if you remember, but in my very first DCOM review video, I said that Brink is the first DCOM that's available on Disney+. I lied. You Lucky Dog actually is the first DCOM available on Disney+, but I guess I was blocking it from my memory. This movie is so bad. So bad. So it's about this guy who's a dog psychologist, and it turns out that sometimes he actually like psychically connects to dogs and can read their thoughts, and when it gets really severe, like when the dog gets really excited, he actually like becomes the dog. I don't understand this movie. It is so stupid. Kirk Cameron is in it, and it's so embarrassing. I can't believe that he played this part in this movie. I mean, I don't think Kirk Cameron really has that much like pride, but like it is so bad. Like, I felt embarrassed the whole time. I was embarrassed for Kirk Cameron. I kept thinking to myself, did they really make this movie? Why? There were several times I had to look away. Like, I couldn't watch. So basically, he's this dog psychologist, and this man who's really rich leaves all of his fortune to his dog, and he leaves Kirk Cameron's character, I think his name is Jack, he leaves him in charge of basically the dog's finances, because he knows that apparently he's got this psychic connection with the dog and can basically be his translator and make purchases on his dog's behalf. And like, the concept of a fortune being left to an animal was already done in the Aristocats, so it's really not even that original. The close-ups of him wagging his tail, I mean Kirk Cameron wagging his tail, i.e. shaking his butt, were disturbing. Like, they gave us close-ups of that on several occasions. It's also kind of distressing to watch them ruin a pretty mansion and make it this tacky doghouse, because the dog wants to buy all this dog crap and Kirk Cameron indulges him, and they just make the house so ugly. The camera work and editing is poor. The costumes are cheesy. There at least seems to be some kind of plot progression, but the ending is so stupid. So it's like you watch this terrible, stupid movie and you think maybe at least we'll get a good ending. No, you don't. Suddenly there's a murder plot? Why is that necessary? It's like they wrote themselves into a corner and didn't know how to finish the movie. The story, I give a 1 out of 5. The lesson, I give a 1 out of 5. The acting, I give a 1 out of 5. And the enjoyability, I give a 1 out of 5. Alright, and that's it for this DCOM review video. Sorry it was so overly negative, but what can you do? These aren't necessarily the 10 worst DCOMs. There are other bad DCOMs, but they fit into other videos, so I put them there. But these were like just so bad, and I decided to make their own category to put all these movies into. But let me know. If I put one of your favorites on this list, I'm sorry, but let me know in the comments why I'm wrong. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.